Trust God with your giving. And be wise in your investments and the things that you invest in. You know, Teresa and I struggled a little bit with the camper issue, but we've been camping for some 15 years, and that was the way we invested in our family, to have family time. And it wasn't until this camper, well, the previous camper that we had besides this one, that we actually had a loan. All the other times, it was something that we were able to buy, pay straight out, didn't know anything on it or anything like that. But as our family grew, our needs grew, and so we would just grow with that. And that was an investment. That was something that we did pray about. That was something that we talked about. Should we do this? But we were investing in our family, investing in family time. And I tell you, it's paid off. And now I've got 2 more to invest in. I remember us asking our kids early on, well, you want to play t-ball? And we played 2 years of t-ball, or do you want to go camping? They picked camping. So that's what we did. And we put the t-ball aside. Now, that might not be your thing, but that's, you may have something in your family that you do, that you invest in, and that's what I'm talking about, wise investments. Do anything for the sacrifice of my family. Well, let's look at the free will offering. That's the second offering that's mentioned. The free will giving. You have required giving and free will giving, and then you have the first fruit offering and the free will offering. Now, here's the free will offering. In Exodus 25, in fact, let me just have you to turn to Exodus 25. God spoke to Moses, and he told him to speak to the people to bring a free will offering for the building of the tabernacle. This is beautiful when you look at this. Look at Exodus 25, verses 1 and 2. It says, Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Tell the sons of Israel to raise a contribution for me. From every man, get this, whose heart moves him, you shall raise my contribution. You get that? Whose heart moves him. This was a voluntary free will offering. Whatever has been purposed in your heart, give. Go to chapter 35, because this is where it continues. Verse 5. Moses tells the people, Take from among you a contribution to the Lord, whoever is of a willing heart. Let him bring it as the Lord's contribution, gold, silver, bronze, and blue and purple and scarlet material, fine linen, goat's hair, and ram skin dyed red, and porpoise skins and acacia wood, and oil for lighting, and spices for the anointing oil, and for the fragrant incense, and onyx stones and setting stones for the ephod, and for the breastplate. Let every skillful man among you come and make all that the Lord has commanded. And then look down at verse 20. Then all the congregation of the sons of Israel departed from Moses' presence, everyone whose heart stirred him, and everyone whose spirit moved him, came and brought the Lord's contribution for the work of the tent of meeting and for all its service and for the holy garments. Then all whose hearts moved them, both men and women, came and brought brooches and earrings and signet rings and bracelets, all articles of gold. So did every man who presented an offering of gold to the Lord. Now listen, go to chapter 36. This is the part I love. Their giving was so great. It was so much that Moses had to actually tell the people to stop. I don't know what I'll do. I'll probably have a heart attack. If I have to ever stand up here and say, listen, you guys have given so much, don't give anything else. I think every pastor would fall over dead if he had to say that. I don't know of anybody who had said that before. It's probably out there, I'm sure. But look at chapter 36, look at verse 5. And they said to Moses, the people are bringing much more than enough for the construction work which the Lord commanded us to perform. So Moses issued a command, and a proclamation was circulated throughout the camp saying, Let no man or woman any longer perform work for the contributions of the sanctuary. Thus the people were restrained from bringing any more. For the material they had was sufficient and more than enough for all the work to perform it. Now this right here was the free will offering. Now if you'll notice in both the periods that we looked at, in the giving before Moses, you had voluntary giving, you had a free will giving. No percentage was imposed, no stipulation, no commandments. The only time that it came in was in the time of Pharaoh and the 7 years of famine, the 7 years of plenty, and where 20% was to be extracted from the people to prepare them for this coming famine. You get into the giving from Moses to Jesus, you see the required giving. Required giving for the Levites, for the festival tithe, for the poor. These were required. And it equaled out more than 10%. It was up to 25%. And then you look at free will giving that also existed during that time, and you had the first fruit offering, which was the best, the top, the best of the heap, and then you had free will offering as well. Well, now let's consider the third, giving from Jesus to the present. And listen, there are two kinds of giving that is stressed in the New Testament. You want to know what they are? Now, don't you drop over dead, okay? It's this: pay your taxes and give God whatever you want. Pay your taxes and give God whatever you want. Does that blow you away? Now, I get the rest of the time to prove that. First one, pay your taxes. That's not hard. It's the second one that you're going to have fun with. The first one, pay your taxes. This was required, just like it was in the Old Testament. Even during this time, the Jews paid their tithes, they paid their temple tax, they had the Sabbath rest for the land, they had that profit-sharing tax, the welfare tax that we were talking about here. And in addition to that, the Romans were exacting exorbitant taxes from them. So let me have you to look at several passages. Go to Matthew 17. Let's look at verse 24. It says, when they came to Capernaum, those who collected the 2 drachma tax came to Peter and said, does your teacher not pay the 2 drachma tax? He said, yes. And when he came into the house, Jesus spoke to him first, saying, what do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth collect customs or poll tax? From their sons or from strangers? When Peter said from strangers, Jesus said to him, then the sons are exempt. However, so that we do not offend them, go to the sea, throw in a hook, and take the first fish that comes up, and when you open its mouth, you will find a shekel. Take that and give it to them for you and me. Now, if believers believed in this, they'd be out there on the shore, tossing their rod in and trying to find that first fish, checking in the mouth. So you pay your taxes, right? But again, in America, we have our taxes taken out for us, and that helps us out. We come to the end of the year where we got to file our taxes, and we go through that whole process. April 15th, people hate that day. But I tell you what, April 1st, they'd be out there on the shores. If they believe this, they'd be out there casting that rod. They'd be out there in the boat. They already got the net on one side, and they hear a voice. Jesus says, cast it on the other side. But think of this. Jesus supported this. He supported this required giving, didn't he? Pay your taxes. Don't cheat on your taxes. Go to chapter 22 of Matthew. Look at verse 15. Then the Pharisees went and plotted together how they might trap him in what he said. And they sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians, saying, Teacher, we know that you are truthful and teach the way of God in truth and defer to no one, for you are not partial to any. Tell us then, what do you think? Is it lawful to give a poll tax to Caesar or not? But Jesus perceived their malice and said, why are you testing me, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the poll tax. And they brought him a denarius. And he said to them, whose likeness and inscription is this? And they said to him, Caesar's. And then he said to them, then render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. And hearing this, they were amazed, and leaving him, they went their way. Did Jesus support taxation? He did. He supported this required giving to take care of the people, to fund the government. Now, I tell you what, all of the wickedness that went along with it, certainly he didn't support, and he confronted that. And that should be confronted, and that's how we confront it. You know how we confront it? We confront it at the polls. We go and vote. And can I encourage you, if you're not registered to vote for this, as they're calling historical election that's coming up, would you please go out and register to vote? And then if you're not sure who to vote for, would you see me and let me tell you who to vote for?